Injecting a child with an emergency medication,
it feels like a huge deal.
I can see wanting a parent's permission, but that is so important. Thank you I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, and I always do practice with the trainer, at least monthly, and I actually have a reminder set in my phone. So that would be something I would recommend. And it takes 2 seconds.
And again, I've sweat through my cardigan at this point. Like, it's a thick ass cardigan.
Yeah.
I don't like this. Like, this is so hard.
Okay. Well, let me do it first then. Welcome back to EpiPod. Danielle's had anaphylactic food allergies her entire life.
And Sarah is a food allergy mom to 2 kiddos.
Managing this invisible health condition can feel so isolating.
Do you also feel like you have a degree in overthinking?
If you're nodding your head like me, then you're in good company.
Let's get you off that allergy island right now with people who get it.
Ready to dive in? Today, if you're watching in particular, you will see some goodies on our table. But if you're listening, we have a giant pile of epinephrine auto-injectors, specifically AviQs of all different varieties, because we are talking about all things you need to know when it comes to administering the epi and also preparing yourself to do it when the time comes that you need to.
Yeah. We recently had an episode where Sarah shared her son Graham's recent trip to the ER, where he had to have 2 doses of epinephrine, and it was literally life-saving that she had practiced. And so that in a moment of panic, fear, this is the worst case scenario, literal nightmare manifested in real life, her body was able to kick in. And I'm a 33-year-old person who has lived their entire life with multiple anaphylactic allergens. I've carried an EpiPen for years, and ask me how many times I have practiced. Probably twice ever with the trainer.
Wow.
Because it gives me anxiety. It makes me think about the worst case scenario. Like, just like having it against my leg makes me nervous. Like, I don't like it.
Right.
But
it's so important.
So important.
I'm going to push you today, and we're going to do it. Okay. Obviously not on yourself, but on these lovely bright yellow lemons that don't deserve that epinephrine, but sorry about it.
They're organic.
Yeah, because it is so important. And I think I always knew, of course, it's important to practice, right? With anything in life, like, practice makes progress, and you're going to do better if you know what to do and if you have that muscle memory built up. So I think I kind of knew that, but when I had to put it into action, when I tell you, Danielle, I mean, it was, one of the worst days of my life, but I was confident in my ability to administer that AviQ into my son's thigh. I knew what I was doing. And I say that like kind of loudly, kind of passionately, because it just felt so nice in that terrible, horrible shitstorm of a moment to know that, like, I know what I'm doing. I'm confident in my abilities. And it's because of the practice that I've done really monthly since I had a child diagnosed with severe anaphylactic food allergies.
It really was like second nature for you.
For sure.
And it saved Graham's life.
Yes.
I'm going to stop us right here just to say, please share this with your allergy bestie if they're a Danielle who if this makes them nervous and they probably haven't practiced in a while. Share this with your child's grandparents, with their caretaker. Yeah. I don't care how many times this person has watched your child or has, comes over to your family's house for a barbecue. If you've showed them once a few years ago or even a few months ago, this could literally save a life, maybe even your life if you're the one with the allergy. Yeah. So once this gives me the chills just glance down at it. Once this is up and into the world, I'm going to send this to my parents. I'm going to send this to my sister. I'm going to send this to my best friends. So I encourage you guys to do the same. Yeah. And if you are listening, then just know that we have the video version on Spotify as well as on YouTube. So if you want to see us actually administer not just the trainer, but a real EpiPen into into a lemon. I have never done this, but Sarah, you said that when you did this with your child's teacher as well as the school nurse, that they kept commenting how different it felt.
It really, yes, that was the comment I got over and over again, that it felt so much different than when they practiced with the trainer.
When I did OIT, like the first day of OIT and like onboarding day, whatever, Dr. Silvers was like, let's just go over this like one more time. Like, all right, do you feel confident with this? And I was like, yes. And he was like, it does feel different. Like the trainer, but like it will feel a little different. So I am nervous and excited to see why everybody keeps telling me it's different. But like
because it feels powerful. Like there's a pressure, there's like
something's being released.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, you feel that, your hand feels that, your body just senses that it's nervous. Different. It's okay. It's okay to feel nervous. I mean, it is a thing that you carry in your pocket, number one. And number two, it is something that you may have to use one day on yourself, on somebody else, or have somebody near you and close to you use it. Obviously, you don't want to. It's the worst case scenario, but it is life-saving. And if you go back to that episode where we talked about Graham's reaction, I mean, he said, to repeat, Mommy, out of the blue, not being asked, not being questioned, he just randomly said to me while laying in the ER, Mommy, the EpiPen didn't even hurt, and it made me feel so much better. I mean, that's a testament to the truth, right? It's a 6-year-old boy. He's not gonna lie. If it hurt him, if he was traumatized by it, he would have told me that, but he didn't tell me that. In fact, he told me the opposite of that. So, I mean, again, kids are truth tellers. They're going to tell you how they're feeling, and they're not going to sugarcoat. And that was his reaction to getting 2 doses of epinephrine. Wow. So it's okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to let that fear get in the way of practicing something that could save a life.
Totally. And like, I don't even know, during that episode when you were or like even right before we pressed record, you were saying things like elevating the legs, 10 minutes in between the first dose and the second dose. Like these are like, these are life or death differences.
Yeah,
and I don't know them. And I'm the one with this thing. So like, I know I'm probably not alone. Like that sounds ridiculous to say out loud. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? But this is so important. So you do this every month?
Yes. So at least with the trainer, you obviously only have so many expired epinephrine. And by the way, we're using expired ones. These aren't like ones that we're buying and to use for this experiment. And I wouldn't suggest doing the same. The other thing before I go into that is, our allergist, again, talk to your own, but our allergist said that, while they have a year expiration, like as in you get them and it's about a year until you have to get a new one, the ones that are newly expired, so just like 2 years past, well, 1 year past, I guess, but they technically probably still work just fine. And so while you wouldn't want that to be your first line of defense in the case of anaphylaxis, keep those as your backup. So if for any reason, they're in your closet and, oh shoot, he's going into anaphylaxis and we actually left the EpiPens at the grocery store where we were at 30 minutes earlier, like, you can still go upstairs to your closet and grab those ones that were expired a couple months ago because they're probably still going to work. So don't use those on fruit. I would keep those and just use the trainer. Like if you're a new allergy mom, you're like, well, I only have one other set. Don't use them for this. Only use them if you have like 2 years or more expired Epis. So I don't always practice with the oranges or the lemons, the fruit, with a real device. But I always do practice with the trainer at least monthly. And I actually have a reminder set in my phone. So that would be something I would recommend, is set that reminder. So it's just, oh, okay, there's a reminder. And it takes 2 seconds. I mean, we'll do it on the show, but or
like habit stacking, like in my head already, I'm like, what do I do once a month that I like over my dead body do I not miss? Right. And I need to habit stack it with that. My dog's heartworm pill. Yeah. Like, I don't miss that ever.
Yeah. Perfect.
Dog gets heartworm pill. I practice my trainer. Before, I think it was like my second session ever with my therapist, I was telling her all the things I'm anxious of, which is very long list. But my homework for one of the weeks, like before I literally trusted her and like would do anything that she said, no questions asked. Like I didn't really know her that well. She's like, okay, 10 times a day. Like if you're so afraid of an EpiPen, like 10 times a day, use the trainer. for the next week. And then you're going to feel real comfortable with that trainer. I didn't do it. I did not do it. I did everything but that week.
Yeah.
But
it's good advice.
No, it's such good advice. So I'm excited for this. We won't go into the details. I'm sure I will have posted it on my social media. So maybe you already know this story, but like I am having the snafu of all snafus, getting a new set of EpiPens because we had a freeze, and like my doctor's PA prescribed not an AviQ, the like big scary one that doesn't talk to you. So I actually have a trainer of that other one. So we can do that too.
Yeah, we should.
Cool.
Okay.
But
yes. So, I brought 2 trainers.
Okay.
These are both AviQs. So again, like if you don't have those, hopefully I think all like epinephrine auto-injectors come with a trainer. Or they should. And if they don't, then you need to call your pharmacy or your whatever.
these ones didn't, which is so random.
What the heck?
I know. It's sort of like with contacts where like when they don't, sometimes there's a thing in there and sometimes there's not. It's like the one time you're traveling and buy contact lens stuff and there's not one, and you're like, what?
You're like, come on.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So trainers, at least in the AviQ, they're always gray. They always say usually,
Trainer.
this is a trainer. It does not have real medicine in them, and they will talk to us. So like, keep in mind that will come onto your speakers right now if you're listening, like an automated weird voice. And we don't have to sit here and listen to it because you guys have hopefully done this already. But again, this is a really good way that at least once a month you can have that muscle memory. One other thing I'll say is my kids play with this. So like it can be kind of like a toy. Now, warning, if you're on like, I'm picturing on Instagram that little like police light sticker that you can put on your stories. So picture that. If you're going to give your kid this to train with, make sure that the real ones are out of reach because at one point they were on the counter in our house and Ethan he was a little younger and went to go grab it thinking, I want to play with the trainer. And also one of my friends, who will go nameless, was in the hospital with her child because she did not have an allergy reaction, but grabbed the epi and injected herself accidentally. Oops. So it does happen. So just remember, like it is a toy, but just like anything else, like if you have a toy version of something, you need to make sure, there's not a real version lying around. All that to say,
give it to your kid, but not the real one.
Yes. And keep them out of reach. But this is good for kids because it becomes, again, like your therapist said, a thing where it's not scary. This is this is the little practice device of my medicine that helps me if I ever need it. You can keep things really kind of light, airy, breezy when talking about it, but also give real facts, show them how to do it, where to do it, why you're doing it, things like that.
Okay. Walk me through, train me like the way that you trained Graham's teacher, or walk me through, I were Graham instead of me, like that night. It was like you keep saying the worst night of your life, but like, what do I and what does everyone listening like need to know when like, even though like, what do we need to know? Like what do I need to be prepared with?
Right. So, I mean, everybody can look at the FAIR chart and see, like 2 systems responding. Right. We need to use the epi, like all of that. One thing that I think might be on like that second sheet that most people just kind of toss.
There's a second sheet.
Has some like information about specific ones, I think, like different types of epis, but then it also gives like general guidance for like lay them down. So that's something that when I posted before, a lot of people were like, oh my God, I didn't know you were supposed to lay down. But not only you're supposed to lay down, but your feet should be elevated. Like the person's feet should be slightly elevated. It just helps, I think, with like blood flow to the heart. And then also, that person should not stand up. Like once they've been given epinephrine, they should kind of remain lying there. I don't know I'm not a doctor. I don't know for what length of time. Obviously trust like the EMT or the doctor who's coming to help. But you shouldn't like give epinephrine and then stand up and like walk or do anything. Like even if you're feeling better, you should remain laying down for a period of time.
If you are listening or watching this thinking like, oh my gosh, how did I not know that? You're in my boat. Join the club.
She's raising her hand.
Yeah.
Yes. It is. No, it's no shame. Like you know it now. And so now like know better, do better, right? Like you have the information now. So I think that's good.
Based off the FAIR chart, I've decided an EpiPen is needed, whether it's for somebody else or for myself.
Yeah.
I get myself down on the floor. and prepare to put my legs up if need be.
Yep.
But
yes.
This trainer contains no needle or drug.
it won't say that in the reel.
Right. Of course. So you've taken the cap off. And then there's another little like red platform cap thing at the end. You take that off. Yep. And then
until you hear 8, 2, 1. Training complete.
okay. So that really is it. You hear that hiss sound in the real one. You'll have to recap it so it doesn't talk to us anymore.
She wants to host the podcast. Hold on.
Sorry, lady. I think you had to turn it the other way.
Oh.
There you are. So yeah, so that will talk to you. The real thing talks to you too. At least the AviQ, of course. But in the middle of it, right, you're going fast, hopefully. So you're not too fast to where you're fumbling, but fast enough to where you're moving swiftly and doing what you need. You don't need to sit there and listen to it. But basically there are two caps, like the outer case and then the little red cap on an AviQ. And then at that point, you don't see the needle. I think that's another really important thing. I think people are afraid, like, there's going to be a giant needle there when I take the cap off. Like, that's not true. You never see the needle.
The way that I thought that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
you mean even now? Like, you didn't know that?
Yeah. No,
Oh, okay.
no. Like, I didn't think that there would be a needle on the trainer, but like in my head, I'm like, okay, be really ginger with that cap.
No, you really don't have to be ginger. I mean,
Okay.
you shouldn't obviously push pressure on
In the
it
wrong place,
in the
yeah.
wrong place because it will eject. But no, you're never going to see the needle even after you've done it.
goes away.
It goes back. It retreats back inside the device, and you never see it. It's not like a needle sticking out like at the doctor's office when they're giving you a shot, anything
it.
like that. So that is good for both, like, mentally for you to know, and then also just for the actual handling of the device. Like, again, if you've sent this to somebody, if you're somebody listening who's a caretaker of some sort, you don't have to be afraid of the needle accidentally sticking you.
That's great
You
to know.
really, it's pretty foolproof.
I think like people only know from the media where
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I can stab in the sternum, or I
Right.
don't know what movie that's from, but the amount of times somebody has said that to me, I'm like,
Yes.
you're never getting another date with me again. But it's different than the other EpiPen where like you're supposed to like really like sort of like
Swing it, yeah.
Swing it. This is not swinging.
No.
You're flush against the thigh and you're applying pressure.
Right.
Until it says to stop applying the pressure and call paramedics.
Right.
So
And I
let
think-
me grab that other trainer so we
Yes,
can
do
sort of see
it.
the difference.
And while you're doing that, I will say, I think that there are a few where you kind of do the swing motion, but I think quite a few of them, even not AviQ, but some epinephrine generics and things, it is more of a put on the thigh and push scenario. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, read your like manual and everything. It'll tell you what to do. But yes, and the size difference in these too. I mean, if you're watching, it's about half. It's double the length.
It looks phallic. I said that the last time we were talking about EpiPens.
Yes.
I had no idea until I moved to Austin and started with Aspire allergy. I didn't know you're supposed to have two. And so in college and
Yeah.
after college, I would only have one, and it was like from this brand, and I would stick it in my cowboy boot and go to country music festivals in 106 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
And had no idea. Yeah. So like, yes, this is, it's sort of like an enormous,
Pen?
like, yeah, it's sort of like an enormous like mascara tube, maybe.
Tampon,
Yeah.
big tampon or something.
Or like
Yeah.
reading glasses if you fold them up.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not like huge, but I love the AviQ because if I'm carrying two and you need two, as we said in the last one, like Graham needed two.
Right. And that's huge. Like,
So if you
always
need two versus two of these guys, one of these is still bigger than two of the AviQ. So if
this is not promotional
No,
for
if-
AviQ, but we both do carry them and like them.
yeah, if I didn't know the AviQ existed until I remember like seeing it on somebody in California, and at the time when I was carrying these ones, I didn't
Yeah.
know like, oh, theirs seems like a little easier. But yeah, there's like coupons and like different things. So if you're interested in something smaller, I'm particularly talking to adults, like
Yeah.
especially girls with purses that are small and they have iPad size iPhones that take up most of the space. That was a big game changer for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So it says twist.
And this is a trainer, right?
Yeah. This,
Does it say trainer on that one?
yeah, it says trainer.
Okay, great.
I don't like this. I'm like clammy. I'm
feels
clammy.
worse. Yeah. I mean, it's great because it's life-saving, of course.
I don't want to do it.
So I don't know how to do this, but okay, you quickly twist in direction of twist arrow to remove gray cap and to expose orange tip. So that's what we're seeing right now. Pull off blue safety release. So that's this.
The way that I had it pointed on the wrong direction. Okay.
So we've pulled off this. It's like a little, I don't know, like tip cap.
It's like the red version.
It's like the top of a pen or something. Yes. Then swing and push firmly the orange tip against outer thigh so it clicks. So I've heard blue to the sky, orange to the thigh.
Okay.
Is a tip that a lot of people use.
Orange to the blue to the sky, orange to the thigh.
Yes. Okay. Swing and push firmly the orange tip against outer thigh so it clicks. Hold firmly in place for 3 seconds to simulate delivery of drug. Tip extends and locks after use. So, okay, this is a trainer, double checking. Okay, so you swing and push firmly and hold there for 3 seconds. Okay. And then it kind of swings back.
I don't like this one. This one scares me. All of them scare me. Just, I've been sweating profusely. I'm going to need to get this cardigan dry cleaned after this episode.
Yes, you can do it.
I think that just proves I really do need to be practicing if I'm this nervous around in a non-emergency situation.
Okay. So put it back on. Let's do it quickly as if it was the real thing.
Okay. When I tell you guys Sarah is my literal allergy mom, this is a perfect example. Being like, okay, sweetie. Okay.
Twist.
I take off the blue.
Yep.
Orange to the thigh, blue to the sky.
You should not put your thumb on top of there. That's another tip. Okay. Hold it like a, like a pencil, but not pencil grip, but don't put your thumb.
Like a Neanderthal eating with a fork.
Yes. Okay. Do not put your thumb on top because in case you do have it flipped, you don't want to inject your thumb.
2, 3. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So continuing this little role play skit we have going. So I have administered it. And I am laying down. I put my feet up above my heart and
call 911. So that's the order of events. Like if your kid is at school, and I make sure to say this out loud, clear and simple. Here's the order. Literally, if you're the teacher, I say, okay, so I maybe have just explained stuff. And I say, okay, as a reminder, the order is Epi, 911, then call me. So a lot of times, as a teacher, I think they think we got to call the parent. Yeah. And that is in an emergent situation where, for example, if you're listened to my last episode or follow me on social media and have heard me describe what happened with Graham and his latest reaction, in that moment, we have the opportunity to call providers. In other reactions, the first thing I've done is to call the clinic, call the providers and be like, this is happening. What do we do? How should we handle this? In that moment, that never crossed my mind.
I remember
never once
texting you. It has been over 24 hours post ER. And I was like, what does the doctor say? What does what do providers say? And you were like, we haven't even been able to get in contact with them.
Correct.
It wasn't a let's check in.
No, it was it's emergent. So
that is such an important piece for whether it's childcare or a teacher. Don't bother calling me first.
No,
don't wait for me to pick up.
And if you're a parent listening, you put that as part of your conversation because I can't tell you how many people were like, oh, okay. Almost everybody I say it to is like, oh, really?
I mean, it's so valid because you think if I'm babysitting your kid and they're like, my mom says that I can have a croissant that she baked.
Right.
I'm like, can Graham have a croissant that was on the top of that thing? That's a freaking little, something from inside the house, a baked good.
Right.
Injecting a child with an emergency medication.
It feels like a huge deal.
I can see wanting a parent's permission.
Yeah.
But that is so important. Thank you I would never have thought of that. Yes. That's amazing.
So again, you say, hey, here's the order as a reminder. Use the EpiPen, call 911, then call me. I'm the last call. So I sometimes even follow it up with that. I'm the last call.
Wow. Okay.
And so it really kind of strikes a chord with them. And I think it's important. Okay. So let's move on. If you're watching, you're seeing this. If you're not, just know that we have just practiced with the generic EpiPen. And now we have the AviQs. We've also practiced with the trainer. Again, the generic EpiPen was the trainer version. We've practiced with the AviQ trainer version. And now
we called 911.
Oh.
We've told the parents.
Yes.
If I'm not feeling better significantly, the way Graham was, in 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes. I mean, again, talk to your doctor, get an exact plan. I think if you like lose consciousness, right? Like your kid does or something, like you use the second one immediately. I mean, I'm again, not a doctor, but I would
This is your plan and
yes,
how you're
this
training
is my plan.
your child's teachers. That's
Yes.
all. That's our legal statement.
Yes.
We are not medical professionals. Ask
No.
your doctor. This is what we do. Okay. So you do the second one though.
Yes, in a different leg. That's
Different
also very
leg.
important. So they say that the blood vessels, something can kind of constrict after you've used the epinephrine. And so you want to make sure that it is in the other leg so that it's not kind of disrupted by whatever's happening in that leg.
That makes total
initially.
sense.
So opposite side of the body is important.
Again, if you are in the boat of the person who has had this their whole life and are like, I don't know if I would have gotten that question correct if this were a multiple choice.
Yeah.
Same. Okay, so second one.
Okay, so you've used the second one. Hopefully that's enough. But at this point, emergency care is on the way. In our case, emergency providers were the ones to give the second dose, and they kind of dialed it up versus like an epinephrine auto-injector. But yeah, at that point, hopefully you have emergency services and they can kind of take it from there.
Something that I feel like I can add to this, there was one time where a dose was not going well, and praise God, I didn't need the EpiPen, but something that the nurse on call told me is lock up your pet because she could hear him barking in the background. Like if 911 is coming in, like the door is probably going to be open. Yeah. Like lock up if you have anything that shouldn't get out of the house, whether it's a kid or a pet or I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah.
A robot. You never know, Elon these days. Lock them up. And also if you're an adult like me who lives alone, having the door unlocked for 911, like before I would get on the floor to do this for myself and put myself near the door, like having the door unlocked so they could get into my apartment is something that I was like, oh my God, yeah, both of my locks are on.
That is something I had never thought of. And you're so right. Like I'm not the one with allergies and I wouldn't be in the situation where I'm alone having a reaction, but for something to tell Graham and Ethan later, when they're older and going off to college, like that's a huge important thing that as a parent, I would want to tell my older child. So thank you. That's great.
Yeah. Or I've lived in so many different apartments here in Austin and I felt super uncomfortable in the one apartment. Luckily I was only there for like 8 months. The one that you had to come to, it was like it's like a maze to get in. Which like, again, you don't want it to turn into a safety behavior or like something, but it was very hard to get into. Like it's sort of a maze of highways. And then like I was in a weird part of the building that it looks like you're going to a dead end, but it's like, oh, there's her apartment. So I don't know, compared to other apartments, living alone, doing treatment, I was like, wow, when I used to live 2 blocks from a hospital and was on the ground floor with easily breakable windows all over the place, like that made me feel a lot better. So just like thinking about whatever hinders was helpful. And like in that scenario, like I got to know my neighbors on either side and one of them ended up being a nurse. So like that's how I sort of like circumvented. Is that a word? Yeah. Whatever.
It is.
Anyways. Okay. Let's do this. Now it's time to hear from one of our sponsors, Lorissa's Kitchen.
Get 20% off the only certified top 9 allergen-free meat snack at lorissaskitchen.com. That's LORISSAS kitchen.com. Use promo code EpiPod.
Not only are they certified top 9 allergen-free by Menu Trinfo, they use 100% grass-fed and finished beef or free-range poultry, and they're 0 sugar.
Lorissa is an allergy mom that knows the struggles firsthand and founded Lorissa's Kitchen to enable everyone to snack fearlessly.
Use promo code EpiPod to get 20% off your first order at lorissaskitchen.com. LORISSAS kitchen.com.
So, okay, we have multiple versions here. These purple ones are from when my kids were teeny tiny. And one thing to note, if you're practicing, sometimes if it's really old, like this is from 2022, that's 3 years ago. I can do it, but when I pull it out, sometimes the audio doesn't work anymore. So the device it should inject fine, but the kind of robot talking to you might be like, like not really, you won't hear actual words. And so keep that in mind just so you're prepared. Like if you're using a really, really old one, the voice box might be kind of broken. So I'm not going to use these on our podcast now.
This one literally came from the pharmacy a week ago, but they came in, they don't work or they're not safe to use.
I mean, it literally says do not freeze and protect from heat and light. And you said that
they literally arrived to me in uninsulated packaging in the middle of a polar vortex, a 5-day long polar vortex. And so like I ran out and got them on the porch the second the package hit. To the touch, ice cold. Frozen. Like I had pulled them out of the freezer. Cold. Not just like, oh wow, this was got a little chilly. I don't know about this.
Right.
No, this was like I pulled something out of the freezer.
Right. And it truly, the first bullet is do not freeze on the back.
And it was so frustrating because calling the company, it was like a remote pharmacy. I was like, this is like extremely negligible. And they didn't even know that it needed to be temperature controlled.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I wasn't talking to a pharmacist, mind you. I was talking to like a rep, but he was like an AVQ rep. And I went full Karen, and I just told him like, you know what? I'm starting to like be a little bit unkind, and that's not within my nature. I have to go. Your corporate policies are putting lives at risk. Have a good weekend. Like, goodbye.
Yeah.
But crazy that like companies, anyways. Yeah. So like follow the instructions on the back. You can't freeze them. You have 9 degrees of
wiggle room,
and it's not great. So,
okay. So we're going to do this, one at a time so that we don't get distracted by one another.
Okay.
When I do it with somebody in a, like school environment, if it's like the nurse, the teacher, we do it one at a time. So we can watch the other one so that we don't get distracted, because this is a real needle and we don't want to have any kind of issues. The other thing is, it's pretty stable. Get a piece of fruit that's not super rolly. I mean, this is rolly, but it's pretty stable, and this isn't going to make it go too far. I wouldn't put your hand around the fruit, so that way, again, in case you like slip, you don't want to like nick your thumb or anything like that. I mean, I think
your heart goes
adrenaline
fast
in your body when you don't need it. Again, there's not like major side effects, I don't think, but you would want to get monitored, I think, at the hospital. So it's just a situation you don't want to put yourself in for no reason.
Again, I've sweat through my cardigan at this point. Like, it's a thick ass cardigan.
Yeah.
I don't like this. Like, this is so hard.
Okay. Well, let me do it first then. Okay. So it's going to talk, but I'm going to move through it quicker. And again, I am going to show you though before that you're not going to see the needle. Like I'm going to hold it up like this. I'm going to not put my hand here around the fruit. And then I'm going to put it on here first, and then push and hold for 2 seconds.
I'm so glad I'm with my allergy mom right now.
You've got this. You can do it. Okay. So I'm going to pull it from the outer case first. Okay. You can kind of see it down here. It's like a little, in the trainer, it looks kind of like an empty black space, like it's just kind of empty. Right here, you see that that's kind of where the needle will come out, but it's not there right now. So I'm going to take this red safety guard off. It is kind of like,
it's hard to get off.
Yes. Okay. So there's where the needle's at, but it's buried in there. You can't see it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to put it up against the fruit.
Out?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to put it up against the fruit, and I'm going to push it. Did you hear it? It was a little louder, a little more. Okay. So needle is not there anymore. There's a little bit of the medicine you can see kind of like dripping there, and same with on the fruit. I think that's just because it's a lemon, like it's filled with juice. You can also see the little, here, I'm going to wipe my dress on it. I mean, you can barely even see any kind of injection mark. It's a really teeny, tiny, which again is probably why Graham said it didn't hurt. When I gave it to him, I did look down, and there was like a pin prick. You know how like they prick your finger at the doctor's office, and they're like, you have to kind of squeeze it to like get blood out, but like there's maybe a little dot on top. That is all I saw. And the next day he had like, less than a mosquito bite looking mark on it. No bruise, no nothing. wasn't painful to the touch. He never remarked on it at all. So all that to say, it's remarkable and also unremarkable in a good way.
If you are watching this, you can see my body language. I am like hunched. Like this is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so necessary. And let's get it over with because
Okay.
I really don't like this, Sarah.
I know. But remember that just like you would tell another person, doing this, having this muscle memory, having this practice could serve you or somebody else dearly in the future.
Okay. I'm just going to talk to myself for a second. This is scary. You are fine. You are safe. Your allergy mom is here. Also, you're doing this for future you if you need it. Okay, here we go.
We're going to pull out the case. You got it. Pull off the red safety cap. Okay. Don't put your hand around it.
No.
Okay.
Until you hear a click and hit. 2, 1. Injection complete.
You did it.
Seek emergency medical attention.
That's it.
Did it go in?
It's in.
Are you sure?
Yeah. If you're seeing juice, it's from the lemon. But yeah, it did it. You did it.
Okay.
So what is your initial reaction?
That wasn't as scary as I thought.
Good.
That wasn't as... the buildup was way scarier than... It's like being at Disneyland on the first time that you get on California Screamin'. Like, yeah, the buildup and like waiting in line for the roller coaster was 10 million times more scary than actually doing it.
Yeah.
It does... Here, I'm going to do the trainer right after it just so I can like really compare.
Yep.
This trainer, place black end against outer thigh. 2.
It's different, right?
It is really different.
Training complete.
The amount of times that I have asked, but how is it different?
Yeah. And it's hard to explain.
It is. I will say like there is a little bit more resistance.
Yeah.
Air is coming out.
Yeah, it
from
feels-
I guess the mechanisms that's happening.
Right.
Yeah, like the push is like it just feels different.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily push harder.
No.
But you do have to, I don't know, you just feel a sense of like maybe needing to hold it steadier or something. Like there's some amount of like pressure there.
That's different.
That is different. Not like mental pressure, but like actual pressure in the device.
Sarah, I'm having mental pressure.
Well, both. Yeah, sure. But I just meant like physically, I think there's like a pressure there.
I'm like, I'm having pressure. Okay.
You did it though.
I did it.
I'm so proud of you for doing it. High five.
Thank you.
Did it. And here's the thing. You probably have plenty of these at home, talking to everybody out there and talking to you. In a month, do that again.
Okay.
And do the trainer with it. And every month, even if you're not doing the practice with the real thing on a piece of fruit, like do it. Because it is going to serve. It served me. I knew what I was doing. I felt good about doing it. And I wasn't like shaking in my boots, even though I was, in the sense that I was looking at my kids struggling and that was scary. But in terms of actually picking up the device and using it, I was cool, calm, and confident.
Also, like in any sort of like, oh my gosh, situation, like I feel like I can't really like think straight. Like everything it's like the Matrix. Everything's moving really fast, but also really slow.
Yeah.
And like to know now, I don't have to like dig out the sheet and be like, oh my gosh, wait, different leg. Like, is it the same leg or a different leg? I don't know. Google quick. Like that's not going to be a conversation for me anymore. Like knowing to put my legs up, knowing to be by the door, knowing that the door is unlocked, like all of these things, while they aren't muscle memory yet, because I haven't done this once a month like you yet, I really feel already a lot more sure and capable.
And you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did it.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yes.
As my emotional support. Thank you, Sarah, for just being you. I'm so blessed to have you as my allergy mom.
Aww.
And for sharing Graham's story. And yeah, that was like a very distinct thought the day that happened, where I was like, you need to do this.
Yeah.
Like you need to do this. Send this to somebody in your life, somebody who watches after your kid. If you are an adult, if your partner, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever you spend a lot of time with, to your parents, to your grandparents, literally send it to everybody, because even if it's not with you, allergy, like they can happen to anybody anytime.
Yeah.
Or an insect or whatever. So this really is pertinent for anybody to know.
Yes. And 30 minutes, and it could really help somebody in your life. So,
Okay.
please. Yeah. Thanks for being here.
We'll see you next week.
Yes. And yay, Danielle, you did it.
Thank you. What are we going to do with these lemons? I don't want to touch them.
I'll throw them away. I'll gather the aftermath.
All right.
Okay. See y'all next week.
Thanks, Mom. See you next week.